Well, this is going to be a pretty scrambly video, mostly because I am recording this on the night of Sunday. It is March 1st. Happy March, everybody. And by the time this video is uploaded on YouTube, maybe there's already a trade that went down, maybe there's already a move. We will talk about that when I wake up. But in this video, we are going over some of the latest Montreal Canadiens related conversations, news, trade rumors, and how one Patrik Laine had just responded to the haters. Let's start out with Patrik Laine, actually, because by now you know his story. He has been a Canadiens guy who hasn't played for the Canadiens. He's only got 5 games played on the season. And the reason we are talking about Patrik Laine today is because of his interaction with social media haters. Should I say haters, plural, or only one singular hater? I don't even know if that's accurate, to be honest, but the reason we are bringing up Patrik Laine's name is because of a post on Twitter by HFTV Sports. Take a look at this. It's a reel from Instagram posted by the Sick Podcast and Tony Marinaro, wherein Mark Dumont makes an appearance on the Sick Podcast show, saying this: Patrik Laine is arguably the worst 5-on-5 player in the NHL. Dumont says on the program, the interesting thing about this Instagram reel is that Patrik Laine liked it himself. 11,000 views, however many likes, and Patrik Laine is one of them. This is what the folks on HFTV Sports go out there and say about the matter. I feel like it's unfair that we scrutinize with a microscope someone who hasn't played in 4 months and arguably has not been fully healthy for more than 10 games in Montreal. Recovering from shoulder surgery before he came, bad knee last year, wrist playoffs, hernia this season. And what's funny is right now he is probably in the best shape and the healthiest he has been in years. And the Habs have decided he has played his last game for us, essentially. I imagine there's something deeper to all this, but I suppose we'll only find out when he's gone. I don't understand why people have to give negative opinions like that, so unnecessary to say something that's not true. And while it's true that I do think hockey analysis does have a place on the internet, going out there as a professional analyst, a guy who worked for the Habs in the past, saying that Laine is arguably the worst 5-on-5 player in the league, that's pretty harsh, especially for a guy that hadn't played most of the year. Now, it gets even more interesting when you acknowledge that Laine liked the thing himself, and it doubles down on the interesting when you take a look at this update that was also posted by HFTV. Patrik Laine ended up replying in the comments section, @ing Mark Dupont, asking this: how's your game, boy? So, yeah. Social media definitely has changed the landscape as to how NHL players interact with and see stuff that comes from the media. Mark Dumont isn't even going out there on one of the primary broadcasting platforms in Canada. He's just going onto the Sick Podcast with Sick Media. Not that they're not big, but the fact is, this is a podcast show. They're not CBC, they're not Sportsnet, they're not TSN. Mark Dumont did used to work for the Canadiens, but Patrik Laine is still able to get his attention over there. With that said, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Patrik Laine responding to the hate on social media? And do you think it's fair to call him out at this stage of his career, saying that he is probably the worst 5v5 player in the league? With that said, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some other Canadiens, rumors, guys that have been linked to Montreal, courtesy of our amazing friend, Elliotte Friedman. Now, spoiler alert, we are going to use this video clip from NHL on TNT in 2 videos today. There is a Montreal angle to this conversation from Friedman and the folks in Atlanta, Georgia, and then there is a Red Wings conversation that I wanted to talk about as well. That'll be the next video on this channel. But within this 9-minute and 18-second TV hit with Elliotte Friedman and the NHL TNT crew, there is some pretty interesting Montreal Canadiens news and notes. Take a look at this post made by Elliotte Bis on the Habs subreddit. Friedman says in the program, a lot of people linked Robert Thomas and Montreal. I'm not convinced of that. Also, he said the Habs just inquired about Rasmus Ristolainen, but they didn't go far. Now first, let's talk about the less desirable of the two assets here. Rasmus Ristolainen is a big guy. 6'4", 220, right-handed defenseman signed on till the end of next season, making $5.1 million a year. He's 31 years old. The contract will expire when he is 32. And Ristolainen has had a pretty meh season. I mean, he's only played half the game so far. He is on pace for 12 points over 45. But he is a guy that once upon a time was a decent point producer for the Buffalo Sabres, posting up back-to-back 40-point years. He then found himself in Philadelphia and developed the reputation that he has right now. I kind of question where Montreal's emphasis is when hearing that they are interested in a guy like Ristolainen. Obviously, we know that on the right side, there are two very reasonably good names on the decor in Noah Dobson and Alexandre Carrier. If there is no optimism for a guy like David Reinbacher, and there is no desire for the Canadiens to continuously play a left-handed guy on the right, maybe Rasmus Ristolainen is the guy that Montreal could use. I'd honestly argue that Tyler Myers would be a better fit, but then again, I don't really know if he'd want to go to Montreal. Speaking of Tyler Myers, let's take a look at Ristolainen and his contract. He has no trade protection over here, so if the Philadelphia Flyers are okay to see him get moved, he's got no say in the matter. He can just get moved. As for Robert Thomas, there is a conversation to have about him with multiple teams, and heck, I said it at the beginning of the video, I'll say it again, maybe by the time this YouTube video is public, Thomas is already traded. It's possible. But Robert Thomas has had a pretty decent year, kind of a letdown compared to his standards. He has been a consistent 80-plus point guy the past 2 seasons, and with 81 points in 70 games last year, obviously, he stood out on top of his head. This year, Robert Thomas has 35 points in 43 games, on pace for about 53 points in 65. He did miss some time there for a bad St. Louis team that can't seem to get the production they need from the majority of the players on the roster. This is where things get interesting about the Robert Thomas conversation, even though Friedman says that he is not convinced of Thomas and the Canadiens. There is an expanded conversation about this here too. Karn LOL says the Blues are probably asking for too much for Thomas, but holy crap, a second line of Slavkovsky, Thomas, and Demidov would go insanely hard. Elliotte Friedman reported that the St. Louis Blues want the Quinn Hughes package or more for Robert Thomas. The Hughes package was a top prospect, plus a first, plus a young established player, plus a B-level depth prospect or young player. But also keep in mind, Thomas controls his destination with the no-move clause. It's very possible that just like Ryan O'Reilly, he doesn't like big markets, so maybe Friedman got that info from the agent, excluding some of the teams. Now, Original Canadian says that it's hard to think of a direct Quinn Hughes trade equivalent, maybe something like Reinbacher versus Buyum, Kapanen versus Rossi, Raw versus Ogren. Picks would also be included, though. I imagine St. Louis would be asking for a Hage or a Zarovsky, too. And that's kind of the interesting element that I wanted to dive into in this video here. Robert Thomas is fine, and I think the guy is going to fetch a pretty good package for St. Louis. But saying that you want the Quinn Hughes trade package for Robert Thomas? I don't know, man. I understand that Quinn Hughes' contract expires in a year, therefore his value could be reduced. But thinking about what this guy, a franchise-changing defenseman in the NHL, was able to get, it really makes me question whether or not St. Louis is being realistic about what they want for a Robert Thomas trade. With that said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Patrik Laine responding to the haters, and Montreal getting linked to Robert Thomas as well as Rasmus Ristolainen? I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.